my own. I'm very fortunate and pleased that I met again Nicholas Gage, who is our spiritual father, basically, because he opened the way for us, the so-called younger generation. We are not too far away, but he is the father. And I was very privileged to have him speak at a class of mine many years ago at the University of Florida. And of course, I've read his books. And as the other Nikos was speaking here today, I said, what is this that makes great men and great writers? And as I was processing this information in my mind, I realized that both of them have experienced much sharper pain than I have. Nicholas Gage suffered the ultimate. I mean, losing your mother at a very young age and having a father far away is the worst thing that can happen to a young child. And he turned that pain into that brilliance of mind that he produced. And he gave us not only Eleni, not only a place for us, but many other books that make the Greek Americans extremely proud. And I'm proud myself for his accomplishments. And his daughter is following his footsteps. Nikos, on the other side, he experienced pain, a different kind of pain. He was sleeping there, he was looking up Stapatera, as we say, in Arcadia, and going to school there, and suffering every day. And he had to undergo a lot of things there to be able to graduate and even come to America and make it through college. And then I said, yeah, this guy suffered much more than I did. He became in paper rich to be able to come to America. You remember that his father had 600 goats, he had so many stars, he had so many mares and everything else. So that allowed him to come here and do his deed and accomplish all these things. In a way, I was much luckier. I was the son of a normal Greek family, not rich, but not poor either. So my trajectory was different. I finished my primary school in my village, but then my father gave me the option to go to high school, where he was living in Athens. Half of the family that was typical in our time. The rest of the family was down there, Arcadia, and the others were up there and were moving to Athens. So I had the good luck, the good fortune to go to a high school in Athens, and as a matter of fact, one of the best high schools in Athens, I found out later on. And then I graduated from the University of Athens, and then I started my own, that was not an odyssey, I can't say that, but odyssey in a different sense, that I was audacious in the form of exploring and finding and understanding the world. That, yes, I did, but not odyssey in the sense that I was struggling to survive and all these things. No. I had it much better. I had it much better. All right, I had to take care of my sisters to marry them off. But that was not that bad, because after I graduated from the university, I wrote to Chicago. I have a relative in Chicago, and I asked him if I could go and do graduate work in Chicago, and he told me, and if I could work. And he said, no, the law has changed, but I can undertake your studies here, and you go to college. And I talked with my father. He said, what do you want to do? I said, I don't want to be obligated. This guy, all right, we're distant relatives, but for him to pay for me, I don't find it fair. So I wrote him back a beautiful letter. I thanked him. And I went to the South African and Canadian embassies to see where can I emigrate. And the South African embassy was faster than the Canadian embassy, and they told me, yes, you come to South Africa. And a week later, the Canadian embassy, no, 2 weeks later, the Canadian embassy said the same. I started preparing my papers for South Africa, and they were excellent in the sense that didn't have even to pay the flight. And they were obligated to keep me in a hotel for 2 months until they find me a job. I couldn't be better than that. So I did go to South Africa. I did find a job. It was my first teaching job, and after 2 years, I was able to send money to marry off my first sister, and 2 years later, I was able to go to New York and start my new career in New York and do my master's there, and become the interpreter, the translator for the late Archbishop Michopoulos. My first job was at the Archdiocese in New York, probably have been there. So 2 years later, I marry off my second sister. Then a year later, I have my master's. Then I teach for a couple of years in New York, and then I go and do my PhD in Florida. I meet Nicholas Gage at the University of Florida, where I was assistant professor and associate director of Greek studies. And then I came here at this school where I have been for 25 years, and I had Gregory and many other people as my students and many priests here. But let's come back to Nikos. When I saw it, I said, Nikos represents the heroic age. This is the heroic age. My age is the dilettante age. I don't know what would be a better expression. My age is the age of people that found things easier. Nikos didn't find things. He had to fight. I didn't have to fight. Things were easy for me. Nicholas Gage, it was even worse for Nicholas Gage. He had to go through American school, and when they put him in the class, they put him in a class with kids that were not okay, and he can tell you the story. And he again was very lucky to have a teacher that believed in him, and then he believed in her and really recognized her, like Nikos here is doing the same thing. So Nikos had it much more difficult, but he accomplished much more than I accomplished. Seeing what he accomplished, where he started from, I'm very proud for his accomplishments, both as a Greek and as a fellow Arcadian, by the way. So his village is a few miles away from my village. The only thing is probably I beat him. My village is much higher than his village because it's about 1,000 meters. I don't know what Nikos' village is. I met him last year at the Pan-Arcadian conference. I promised to write, and when I read it, I was so pleased. And I wrote that, and I'm very proud for his accomplishments and the accomplishments of so many. And of course, Nicholas Gage is our guiding light for all of us and for your kids and grandchildren. And I thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you.